So as you probably saw by the title, I have created the Unkillable Tatooine Gunslinger build. This build is perfect for those players who really want to be hyper aggressive and get in the face of enemies while also being very sustainable and able to just deal tons of damage. Due to the nature of how we designed this build, whenever you shoot at enemies at their body, at their head, actively reload, or just simply be in combat, you're going to gain a burst of adrenaline. If enemies shoot back at you, even more so, you get a massive spike in adrenaline, making it hard for enemies to take you down. After taking down even the strongest of enemies like death troopers in a single burst, you'll actually start to heal tons of HP while still being able to gain tons of adrenaline. I'm going to show you how I made this Unkillable Tatooine Gunslinger build, and if you're interested in seeing the build in action, I'll have it timestamped for you to check out at the end of the video. Without wasting any more time, this is how I make the Unkillable Tatooine Gunslinger build. Alright, so now that you guys know exactly how the build works, let's talk about how to put the build together. And quickly before we begin, most parts will be found on Tatooine, but there are two parts that are found on Kajama and on Akiva. So just note that you need to go get two parts. They're both from vendors, but make sure you go get those first, in my opinion, because Tatooine has this thing where Jabba will keep you on the planet, and if you don't have the proper reputation, you may need to like gain reputation doing missions, and it may progress through the story. Anyway, just letting you guys know, go get those two pieces first, but let's go over the gear set. First things first, we're using the Tatooine Gunslinger set. The reason why we're using this is because they do a combination of things. First off, it's going to generally be centered towards adrenaline gain, but obviously the three-piece, as you can see there, adrenaline rush no longer consumes all adrenaline. This means that most of the time it'll consume about half of it, and then you'll be able to pretty much go into adrenaline mode really quickly, since you're going to have so much reserved and saved up. So that's kind of the purpose of this build. The shirt will also increase the adrenaline gain with hits when you shoot them, and then we have other pieces that's going to give it when you shoot headshots. Also, fast cooling is trickier to perform, but you can be done significantly faster. Now I'll show you an example of this. I specifically waited for night to show you this. So as you can see here, when we cool, as you can see, we were able to do it much faster. And then we got a super cooling, which we're going to go over in a second, and this makes it so we're going to be able to keep shooting, right? So it's a really cool build, and it works really well. For the belt, this is going to restore health for each enemy defeated during adrenaline rush. This is going to be our major way of sustaining so that we don't die, because we will want to get hit a lot, and so that's going to be really important. And then we increase our plasma module heat capacity when you have this on. All versions count under plasma, but that will have a higher capacity so we can shoot longer. And then for our boots, this is going to increase our shooting accuracy so we can just kind of fire, and then it's going to increase number of people that can be marked by the adrenaline. And this is really important because when you're facing off against death troopers and a lot of the stronger ones, this is actually going to be able to, you need to like mark them twice, and if you do mark them twice, that'll instantly kill them. This actually helps a lot in being able to, you know, take out multiple opponents, so it's really big. So first things first, where do we get the Gunslinger gear or the Gunslinger shirt? And there's two ways to get this, and I'm going to show you one right now. So where I'm standing right now, this Jawa here is able to sell it to you. Now keep in mind, this Jawa does not have the same exact type. There are two types of gunslingers. This is a Dayavak gunslinger shirt, but it still comes with the Gunslinger gear. This one will do pretty much the same thing, except for you'll have a different second passive, which means you'll have faster cooling. It's easier to perform, but you won't have the speed one. This one's obviously going to require you to have those components that you see right now. I have no clue where the Stellar Crat unit is. You may find it. Whatever the case is, you can actually purchase it here from this unit, from this guy rather. And this is going to be right here on the map. His name is Intip, and this is on Tatooine, so you should be able to see it. There's a fast travel point, and keep in mind these guys only seem to come out in the evening or at night, so that's going to be quite annoying. But for the one that I'm using specifically, this is actually going to require a two-part step. I don't think you need this step, but I'm just going to tell you anyway. Basically, you're going to come here to Mos Eisley, and there's going to be a vendor here, and you'll see it on the screen now. That's going to give you intel on where to find it. When you get the intel, it's going to tell you to come here to the Hutt Cartel storehouse to be able to get it. One fair warning is one of the vendors for the charms is actually here. So make sure you do not go in and kill that vendor. So make sure when you sneak in from the back and you go in and kill the enemies inside, because I mean, you can sneak around and it's slightly annoying, but if you do a direct approach, you're going to pretty much have to kill enemies within. You want to make sure that you don't kill the vendor on the outside because he hasn't reset for me. Lucky I bought the piece before he died, but just be mindful of that. You're just going to go get that from there. In order to get the belt is going to be from that same vendor, Sopa Nadara or whatever his name is. He's a smuggler, and you just have to give him a request. He's going to have a request for it. All you're going to need is some of the like casual materials as well as quartz weave, and you can just straight up get it from him like that. So it's very, very easy. Next, to get these specific boots, you're going to go to Akava, and Akava will have a vendor named Harpin Meltic. He is a vendor there as a smuggler once again. Just keep in mind on Akava, the tailor actually has access to a different version of the boots. I prefer this one because it comes with the additional target. That's actually really, really big for the build. For Nix, this is mainly cosmetic stuff. At least for this one, you can kind of do whatever you want here just to customize his look. I'm not going to talk about those pieces, but we do have the Skedo Chuga Superior Nix Treat. And what this does is when Nix attacks enemy, which you can make them attack, you'll make them shoot wildly in all directions. This could actually make them hit like other opponents, which is actually really nice. You can actually get this here on Tatooine as well, and there's a vendor, let me show you here. This person here sells it. Well, yeah, he'll sell it, and then you gotta do this really long mini game for it, but it's pretty decent. It really helps in the DPS uptime. For our major charm, we're going to be using the Overgrown Amber Stone. This increases our health as well as it gives us a surge of adrenaline when losing a significant amount of HP. So if you're facing death troopers or anything really strong, when they shoot you and hit you with a bullet, you're going to go basically into adrenaline mode. It's really, really, really great. In order to get this, you're going to need to go to the Fallen Mound on Toshara. This is at the north part of it. This mission is actually going to be a prime mission to get the smoke bomb compressor. This is going to be another key part for the build, as well as just giving yourself a smoke bomb. This is going to be something that you should get because I think it has really great synergy with the build. Next, we have the Vintage Chrono. Now, the Vintage Chrono is going to increase your super cooling window. That's pretty straightforward. I'm going to show you where you can find it because I don't need to look up footage. It's actually right here. It's like right here from where you're at right now, where I'm at right now. The Kurtek Homestead. There's going to be like a little thing that Nix can open. You can shoot it. It'll be in a chest. This is actually pretty big to the build and super easy to get. It's like right down the street. Why we want this is because we have the Glacial Relic. You gain adrenaline after a successful super cooling, and this is going to increase your super cooling window. And this is really big because super cooling is going to have some synergies with your blaster, which we're going to go over in a second. Actually, we'll do it after I tell you where you find it. The Glacial Relic is actually going to be found on Kajama, and you can find this from the vendor Visca. They're a weapon-based vendor, and within that weapon vendor, which we're going to talk about in a second, is the last part you need to do, the super cooling part for this configuration of your your blaster, and I'll show you right now. But for the rapid fire, the super cooling upgrade is actually the same vendor that sells it, so you can actually buy it from this vendor as well. So make sure you pick both of those parts up. So both of these synergize super well. And one thing to note, whenever you so as you can see now where we're shooting, we're going to super cool it. It's a pretty tight window, but it's actually really nice. But the great thing about this is whenever you get like a feel for it, when you super cool, as you can see here, I'm shooting, and I'm finally just starting to gain some heat. And that's the beauty of this build. You actually can shoot so much. Next, we have the Sunset Pebble. The Sunset Pebble is also found here on Tatooine. And this is a very simple location. You're basically going to go here, where I told you earlier, you want to be careful. The storehouse, there's a vendor here that sells it for like 800 credits or something, super low. So make sure you go here and pick that up, very easy. And then finally, we're using the Ashiga Clan Circuit. And what this does is it restores some health on melee takedown or finishers. This one's very simple. You just get good reputation with the Ashiga Clan. So once you get, I believe it's good. No, you get excellent. So baseline excellent, you'll get it. So it's pretty easy to get. And the reason why we use it is because you generally don't want to use your adrenaline unless you're facing multiple enemies, and sometimes it's like 2 or 3 enemies left, right? Or maybe like 1 or 2. Most of the time it's like 1 or 2 that sometimes skip by. And just going to go punch them in the face and restore some HP is actually pretty nice, because you don't want to use your adrenaline, and some people like to get in your face, and it's easier to just punch them and beat them up real quick and get some extra health, because the only sustain you actually have on this build hits from your belt, and having a little bit of extra sustain actually helps you stay alive a little bit longer. Now onto the blaster. Under plasma, we're using the rapid fire one. You can use light, but I like rapid fire because I just like getting a lot of shots out. It doesn't do as much damage as the light, but it gets more shots out, and that, in my opinion, is much more important for gaining adrenaline, since every time you're shooting, you get more adrenaline when you actually connect on hits, and that makes, in my opinion, gives you way more adrenaline over the course of a fight. We're going to get the improved heat capacity because it's going to make it easier for you to, you know, maintain heat. Accuracy for better accuracy. I don't typically shoot this weapon super long range. I just try to get into like medium fight distance and kill, but this helps a lot. And then finally, we're using the super cooling. We talked about this a second ago. Go to Kajama and pick up that piece, and that'll help you with the super cooling, giving you the ability to actually get the benefits of this build. Under Ion, we're using the Surge. I haven't really upgraded it too much because we don't really fight that many droids in this game, and more times than not, I just shoot them with the cinematic mode and it just kills them anyway. So it doesn't really matter too much, but I just use Surge because it just kind of stuns and stuff. It's really cool. Finally, for the power mode, we actually use Blast. Blast is going to give us some AoE damage, and it's going to be really nice to help us deal with like AoE, because sometimes after the mode you'll like have 2 or 3 standing next to each other. You could just swap to this configuration and just blow them up really quickly. Or maybe you don't want to use your cinematic mode on just 3 enemies, you know, your adrenaline mode on 3 enemies. You can just use this instead and just blow them up quickly, so really good. Finally, wrapping things up with expert abilities that are very integral to this, and there's a handful. Under Bram, Armored Undershirt. This one is very, very important. This one's going to give you some maximum HP. This is only going to require you just pick up some coarse weave. In order to get the component that you need, like the secret component that you need to get it, is going to be from this vendor here. This thing keeps coming up on it, but the vendor standing right here, this tailor here, actually sells the other piece to unlock this, so fairly easy to get in Tashara in the major city, so pretty easy. The other thing that's really important to get is from the mercenary called Sharp Shooting. What this does is increase the adrenaline gain generated by headshots by a high amount. In order to do this, you just need to kill enemies with marksman rifles, and then like I believe something else general. I don't remember what it was exactly, but the main thing is just shooting things with marksman rifles. That was the thing that took the longest, so that's the only thing that matters. And then finally, under the Gunslinger, this is where a majority of like your power come from with the build, and you are forced to run into this guy when you go into Tatooine. There's no like way you don't run into him. You will have to progress the story just a little bit to like get his stuff unlocked. But once you do his part, he's going to give you Adrenaline Rush Master 2, which is going to make it so you can mark 2 additional targets. Powered Recharge, you can actually do this as well. This is going to be really good for giving you some perfect cooling, the ability to give you some more adrenaline when you perfect cool. So that on top of the other thing that gives you some adrenaline when you perfect cool, you actually get a lot of adrenaline from it. We're going to get Resilient. I remember exactly what I needed to do for this one. You need to kill enemies while you had low HP, like 1 bar specifically. You will get this done fairly easy. Next, you're going to use the More. What this does is it allow you to mark 1 extra target during Adrenaline Rush and proceed during Adrenaline Rush to mark the enemies. This is really important for the next one that we're going to talk about, but basically in order to do this, all you need to do is mark, I believe it was like 4 sets of 4 enemies, and then you basically get it. It's really easy. And then finally, the Better. This one's actually really big. What this does is it allow, and I would argue this is like one of the biggest parts of the entire build to help you kill. What this does is it allows K to mark tougher targets, so those really tanky guys. You use 2 marks, and it's to kill them. So Death Troopers drop, the guys with the shield drops, the pig with the maces, it will require 2. And that's kind of why we want the boots to give us 1 additional, because it actually helps us be able to kill more. So it's really important. Alright, so we are here in the game. I'm going to show you guys how the build works and try to briefly explain it to you in mid-combat. Just know I may get some things minorly wrong, but it should be easy to explain for the most part. So as you can see, we're attacking an Imperial structure. We already had Adrenaline ready. As you can see there, I double marked that guy. Hope you could have seen that. And that basically means I'm going to instantly kill him no matter how tanky he is. And as you can see, if you look at my adrenaline right now, it is still really high. Technically, I'm in combat, so I'm always gaining adrenaline as long as I'm in combat. And generally speaking, you kind of want to alert enemies and keep yourself in combat so you can continue to get adrenaline. I'm not sure if I'm considered in combat. This should be considered combat now. You can see there, we're back in adrenaline mode, ready to go again. That guy's tanky, but it doesn't matter. What else can we mark? No one else, we can mark those little things there. So you can see there, our health is back, it's full. We got a little health marker thing there, and it just shows that we you know, we're getting healed. I took a hit there, and as you can see with my adrenaline, it's almost full again. And pretty much this is how it goes. Like, we're always going to be good to go to just pretty much kill everything, and we just cycle adrenaline mode pretty easy. I probably should have let that guy call the troops in because it would have been easier to continue to kill. Back to adrenaline mode again, and even if we don't have adrenaline mode, as you can see there, we're just absolutely lasering anything. I'm gonna let the next guy like call in reinforcements if I can. I'm gonna let that guy do it. My weapon naturally. So we got wanted manhunt on, and I think this means that things will start to spawn. The actual only threat you have as a character will be turrets and ATs, which is pretty nice in my opinion, that it takes an entire AT to take down one person. As you can see here, huge quantity of enemies, all dead, just like that. Your health is fully restored, and we're just going to keep fighting, you know. You always want to keep firing the trigger, pulling the trigger rather. Super cool. Oops, gonna take a lot of damage there, but that's fine, but that's what the build is for anyway. Taking damage actually helps you. And the build is just basically built like this, where you just take damage and you just keep fighting. Let's see. More enemies. Screw it, we just go up. Mark the world. As you can see there, we marked a lot of targets, unfortunately. Why didn't it mark that one twice? It's fine. We're gonna kill a lot of targets. There. Got our health back. So once again, I actually restarted the area so that we can get more troops. Just so it'll be a little bit easier for you guys to see it in action. And once again, we just killed the entire screen. Everything dropped. Taking a lot of damage. Generally, you don't want turrets to hit you because they could do stuff like that. The turrets and ATs are very dangerous to any build, so generally try to avoid those. But you know, I can't account for everything, sadly. Just the nature of the game. If I was a Jedi, then it wouldn't be a big problem, but obviously we're not. Oh, I didn't kill that guy. Unfortunate. Obviously, every single shot just contributes to making you much stronger and not really caring about damage. I'm gonna use my casual here because, you know, the turrets did do a lot of damage. You still have heals, so I mean, that's another thing I didn't consider in the build, is that you still have heals yourself, but you know, you have heals, so that's important to note. And you get a lot of heals back because there's just so many enemies that's dropping all the time anyway. And also one thing that's super important to note, this is not a normal situation. Like, you're not gonna be playing like this. I mean, you probably naturally shouldn't play like this, right? But in an extreme situation like this where you're just running in and facing off against the Empire. Oop, messed up my reload, but that's fine because we already have adrenaline mode, which is kind of cool. But yeah, what I'm saying is, like, this isn't a normal, like a normal engagement. This is a pretty extreme situation where you're going into a restricted area and just fighting the entire Empire. Like, that's not normal behavior, right? So to expect to see how well it's performing despite all this, and as you can see here, we got a little low there. Again, the situation is very extreme, so for practical use, you probably won't ever get to a situation like this. I think I died there. Oh, well, I guess in cinematic mode you're not immune, but again, I think this is a great showcase of the build. But anyways, that is a showcase of the build, and it should be fairly obvious that the build is very strong. But that's pretty much the entire kit, the entire build, and what you need to actually build the Tatooine Gunslinger build. If you have any questions, any concerns on how to basically use the build, let me know down in the comments if you're having any trouble. And let me know what type of build you'd like to see next in Star Wars Outlaws. I'm cooking up some cool stuff. And yeah, just like that, I'll see you in the next one, guys.